to the Strong Mind podcast. You might have noticed that it's been almost 2 years since I recorded the last episode. I do have a habit of taking on a bit too many things, and in that time I also made a child who's now 7 months. So yeah, life got a little bit full, but I do apologize for my absence on the podcast. If you're listening to older episodes, just a heads up, a lot of the references are out of date. We mentioned things like the old Strong Mind community, which no longer exists, or courses that aren't live anymore. But I'm happy to be back at it, and I'm really excited to start things up again. As we speak, I've already got 4 new episodes recorded with more in the pipeline. One of the things I'm doing differently this time around is shifting the focus of each episode to center around a particular topic rather than just general interviews. This episode, for example, is all about Babsi and Jacopo's ascent of freerider. Babsi managed to flash the whole 1,000 meters of the route, meaning that she climbed it first try without falling over 4 days, which makes her the first person to ever flash El Cap, which is a huge deal and an amazing moment for women's climbing. What's really cool is how she talks about it. She's clearly proud of how she climbed, but she doesn't make it a big ego thing. She's clearly very humble, deeply process-oriented, and focused on the experience, the climbing, the support from Jacopo, the time they shared on the wall. She has a great mindset, in a nutshell. If you're interested in flow states, listen out for a brilliant moment where she describes flashing the boulder problem, which is the crux of the whole climb. And it's a very clear and vivid description of what flow can feel like. I love these personal descriptors of flow rather than like the academic descriptors of flow. That's a cool moment. And then, while the climbing culture tends to glorify sends and achievements, I was just as interested in Jacopo's experience. He fell on the boulder problem, but still completed the route. But yeah, we're calling it a failure because that's not what he set out to do. He set the goal of flashing freerider as well, and he failed at that. So we talk about how he processed it, including what he calls the walk of shame, which is when he had to, come back down to the valley floor, and every time someone asked how it went, he'd have to say that he didn't achieve what he set out to do. He's clearly pretty hard on himself. I do ask him about to what extent he was affected by sort of external pressures and social validation and recognition, and how much all of those external influences matter to him. And if you know anything about Babsi and Jacopo, they're clearly very intrinsically motivated. Climbing is clearly a deeply personal and meaningful thing for them. But I do think, and maybe you'll take this away from the conversation, maybe you won't, but I think that the conversation and just in general, we do need to remember that even when we think that we're internally motivated, or as we say, intrinsically motivated, we're never completely immune to those social pressures and external influences because we're human, basically. And I think it would be pretty hard to take all of that out of our climbing experience, whether we're professional athletes or not. What I loved about this conversation is that it's really unique. There's 2 people here talking about the same goal that they tried to achieve at the same time together, and one succeeded and one didn't. It's a pretty unique climbing goal and moment, sort of, really, in the history of climbing. And to add another layer of that, they're life partners. There's also a film about their ascent on the Black Diamond website, so if you liked this conversation and you want to see it, it's definitely worth watching. They did a really good job, so I'll pop a link to that in the show notes. Alright, so that's this episode, and in future episodes expect more focused topics like this. I'm planning to do some AMAs as well, Ask Me Anything, and I've already recorded one of those, responding to questions that people ask me through Instagram. I also want to take deep dives into specific mental training topics, and I'll probably do that with my partner Angus, and maybe even do a few solo episodes as well, although that does sound a little bit scary, but maybe that's a good reason to do it. Alright, a few more things before we jump in. We've got a brand new course coming out called Mindset Makeover. If you're interested in some of the themes of this podcast, like motivation, external comparisons and pressures and fear of failure and mastery and how to be positive and just mindset in general, then you're going to love that course. Also, if you're not yet part of our Thought of the Week community, I highly recommend joining that. It's basically a weekly mental training morsel dropped into your inbox to chew on. Basically, we'll take something that we're interested at the moment and we'll kind of think out loud and send it to you. It's definitely not your standard kind of brand newsletter, and people tend to really like them. So I recommend that, and that's free. All right, thanks for being here. If you want to skip straight to the kind of meaty bit of this conversation that focuses on freerider, you can jump ahead about 30 minutes. At the start, I just talked to Babsi and Jacopo a bit about their approach to climbing and life in general. All right, let's get into it. All right, Babsi and Jacopo, thanks for coming on the podcast. All right, let's start with a question for both of you. I want to know, like, when you look at your climbing past, whether there was like a defining moment for either of you where you were like, I want to make this my life. I want to 100% commit to climbing. Babsi, maybe you want to go?
First of all, thanks for having us. But I think in my life, there was never really a moment where I had the feeling from now on, it's just about climbing and nothing else. It was always like that I really loved climbing, doing that in my free time. And for me, it was like from beginning on a real passion. I did a lot of different sports before, but nothing was comparable to climbing. I really liked to climb together with my family, like with my sister and with my brother. But I always had like I went to school and then had a job, and I still have a job, a normal job, even if it's not much what I work at this regular job, but still it's important in my life, and I was always afraid to fully commit to climbing in my life.
Why were you afraid to fully commit?
Because I always had the feeling that when I fully commit, I lose a bit of my fire for climbing, because for me it's really important to keep the balance in life. So I really enjoy to have a normal job which is not related to climbing, and in this part of my life I gain a lot of motivation to go on trips and to have motivation for new climbing projects, and this always helped me a little. And when I would fully focus on climbing all the time, for me it would be really hard to stay motivated all the time. Also, like I already felt it in the past when I did only bouldering, for example. Over the time, I lost definitely some motivation, and with changing climbing styles, doing different disciplines, that helped me a lot to stay motivated.
Nice. So just for people who don't know, you're a radiologist, right? Radiologist?
No, it's like a radiographer. So I'm
Okay.
not a doctor. I'm doing the X-ray job and the CT scans. Yeah.
Yeah. And how like passionate and interested are you in that job?
I really like it because every day there is something new and you never know what awaits you. It's lots of emergencies are happening, and this is very exciting. Maybe not in a good way, but it's always some excitement going on there. And somehow I have the feeling I do something which really makes sense, like helping other people. And I just like that it's not a office job. It's always you're running around doing something, and it's always something going on. And I really like that. And it's also a mix. So I'm doing the emergency X-ray, but also changing in between CT scans, and that mix is really nice. I really enjoy that.
Cool. All right, Jacopo, was there a defining moment for you?
I think it was the moment when I started climbing, honestly. It's like I also tried a lot of different sports as a kid before trying climbing, but I had never like felt this sense of freedom that I felt while climbing. And I remember pretty clearly like the moment that I climbed my first route. Probably from the outside, it didn't look like smooth or like uh, anything good, but for me, it felt like really, really good. And I realized that that was what I wanted to do. And yeah, and I couldn't imagine at the time that climbing would also become my job. And I think there was never a moment in my life where I was trying to make climbing, my job. I was sure that climbing would be an essential part of my life, but yeah, I could never imagine that one day would also become my job. And honestly, I mean, I shouldn't say it, but I still don't see it as a job because I think otherwise I will lose the motivation for it. Yeah, that's it
Yeah.
basically.
So I'm interested because you also do other things that are not like in the strictly professional climber remit. Like you set a lot, as I
Mhm.
understand it. So like, how do you separate like what counts as work from what counts as climbing? Because as a professional climber, we often have to do things, even specific climbs sometimes, for a photo, or you have to do it again for a video. Like, do you have a way that you sort of separate it out in your mind, or is it just like more of a flow?
Yeah, for me, it's a bit similar to what Babsi said before. She also needs like this balance between having a different job and climbing. And for me, this different job is still like within the climbing. So it's a bit more challenging maybe, but it's really important for me to have something which is outside of like, let's say the professional as or like the job as professional athlete. So I do see route setting as something completely different, but it's still climbing related. So I still like try to decide when I want to invest time for into my projects or into training, and then I don't like accept jobs during that period, and then I concentrate the work, like the route setting work, in the other periods.
Yeah.
And it's a job, but it's also like a really big passion for me. So it's something that I really enjoy doing. Maybe the only downside of it compared to maybe another job is that it makes you really tired for climbing. So it's not
Yeah.
that once I'm done with like the setting week, I can't just go and try my project the day after. I need to take some days off, or like keep it easy for the first days and then trying hard again. But I really like this balance. For me, it's really important. I wouldn't like feel good if I would have to put all my energies into the professional climbing life.
Is part of that to do with like the pressure to perform for both of you? Like, I hear that you like having something else from a motivational perspective, but also it is part of it like, because I find that a bit scary as well, that like you're putting all your eggs in one basket. And what if you have an injury, or what if you don't want to like perform to a high standard this year or whatever. So is part of it kind of like pressure as well?
It definitely helps to have less pressure, I think. It helps to feel like less, linked to sponsors. So you still have a bit of freedom. Um, on my side, the downside of it is that if I'm injured, I also probably won't be able to route set at high level. So for
Yeah.
me, it's a bit tricky at the moment. But I do have other like passions that I also like to do as job, like photography a bit, which gives me also a plan C.
Yeah. Good to have plan A, B, and C in your life in general. All right. So you guys have been a partner for how long now? Like, how long have you guys been doing adventures together?
I think it's about 12 years
12
now.
years.
Yeah, a really long time.
Like, how different do you think your guys' climbing lives would be had you not found your partnership? So, like, do you think that you both would just happen to be motivated for the same things? Or do you think that, like, Babsi was more motivated for this, so it kind of shaped Jacopo's climbing a bit, or Jacopo was more motivated for that, so then it shaped, have you just grown together? Like, yeah, just tell me a bit about that.
Well, that's hard to tell, but yeah, I think that we grown together. And when we met, I think that Jacopo was more into bouldering, and for me it was also like a bit different. I did more sport climbing. I just changed from bouldering into sport climbing because I had this back injury. And then both of us were super excited about bigger adventures and climbing on big walls. And I remember like the first real climbing date we had was like on a big wall. Like we went to Marmolata South Face and climbed Tempi Moderne together and struggled a lot. So we got lost on the wall. We were 25 hours on the wall, and this already.
How many hours?
25.
Okay, I thought you said
hours.
95. I was like, how's that possible?
No, 25 hours. And then, yeah, I think it was a good base of the relationship because we already knew how we worked together in extreme situations.
Did either of you get really scared on that day, and you sort of had to like, were you sort of trying to be more brave to show off to the other person at all?
I don't know, but normally I definitely can freak out a little bit when I'm really stressed in a bad situation. But with him, he was so calm and chill that I had the feeling, okay, everything is all right. And he gave me that feeling that everything is safe, and we will get back to the ground and everything will be fine. So we didn't stress each other out, but maybe it was also because the communication was not easy at this time because my English was not really good and his German was also not as good as it is now. So in this tiredness during the night, the communication was really hard. So we did definitely a lot of mistakes. We had to climb a lot of traverses and we couldn't just wrap down straight to the ground. And this added some extra hours and added some extra stress on that situation. But at the end, we got to the ground, and for us, it was a very intense experience. And I will never forget about that, even if it was not a fun experience. Yeah, but I think this is how we work together. Like, since that moment on, I had the feeling it on a wall, like sharing this passion together. It can't get any worse than it was at the beginning when it comes down to climbing. There are definitely other struggles in life, not only climbing.
Yeah. Babsi, you said that Jacopo had this calming effect on you. Does he still have a calming effect on you?
Not all the time. He's like as a person, he's super chill and way more relaxed as I am, and I think that helps a lot. And when I would be together with somebody who is similar to me, that would definitely not work, I guess. But he is the guy who is always on fire. So for him, it's really hard to stay still. And even on rest days, he always has a program, always something to do. And for me, it's really hard to follow. So sometimes I have to chill and hold myself back to recover. And he's the guy who is always full gas. And yeah, at the beginning, I tried a lot to do the same like he's doing, but nowadays we know each other more, and I am definitely different as him and have to take some rest sometimes.
Jacopo, is there anything you can learn from Babsi about how she takes rest?
Yeah, there's a lot to learn, I think. A lot. Yeah, I have a really hard time like resting and be quiet. Or like just to chill, I can't sit on the couch unless I have to do something. So there is definitely a lot to learn. Like now I have this little, I hope it's a little injury, in my neck, and I should just chill, will make everything way easier. But I can't. Like if I can't climb, I have to run or flying or skiing, and yeah, I realized with the time I understood that it's not good for my climbing, but it's something that I really need at the same time. So it's hard to to find the balance.
Yeah.
But that's maybe something that has changed for me over the years. Like at the beginning, I was just focused on climbing, and I just want to climb all the time. And now, like to keep my motivation high for climbing, I always have to first of all like switch within the disciplines in climbing, and then do other stuff too. Like I really need it.
Yeah. And just for the listeners, you both ski, paraglide, and run, I guess. Are they the main things? Yeah. And as far as I understand it, you're both quite strategic with how you plan your year. Like that's something that I'm always impressed. No, Jacopo's not. He's shaking his head. I feel like you guys are very like, okay, now we're gonna boulder, now we're gonna sport climb, now we're gonna try climb. Is this Babsi who does this, but not Jacopo?
No, she's even less planned than me.
Okay.
She's less organized.
No, but I think that for us it always makes sense. Most of the time we stay at home around winter, and this is connected with training in the gym and getting back into shape. And after the winter season, for us, often it makes more sense to go sport climbing because you feel really fit and strong, and it's best to use that for sport climbing. And during summer, it's too hot for sport climbing anyway, so we go more into the mountains, climb multi-pitches. And at the end of the year, at least it's about me, at the end of the year, I get more weak. And then it's perfect for crack climbing. And then we go to Yosemite. It doesn't mean that we get weak in general, but in that sport climbing shape, it's definitely, I always feel less strong at the end of the year. And
Yeah.
this it's just easier to go crack climbing then.
That seems strategic to me. I mean, you're using your energy systems, you're going from like power, which is harder to get, but easy, but kind of, yeah, it's harder to get, but slower to lose. And then you're kind of riding it out for the rest of the year as you build fitness, I suppose, for bigger things. I feel like I could
and
learn from
also
that.
when you want to stay in shape all over the year, for me, I would lose a lot of motivation to just go in the gym during summer. It's really hard when the weather is
Yeah.
perfect and then you go to the gym and train on plastic. This is super hard for me. And I think Jacopo likes training way more than I do. Like he has another background as well. He did a lot of competitions back in the days, and he's I guess more motivated for gym training compared to me. I'm always I struggle a little bit with gym training.
All right, let's talk about Yosemite. So, you Babsi, you actually went to Yosemite before you met Jacopo, right? Because you went with Hans-Jörg. And then, so yeah, tell me, basically, tell me, I didn't know a bit about these stories of your first time in the valley, but yeah, tell me a bit about the valley. And because I feel like everyone's got a first time in the valley story, like I have one as well. So I want to hear yours, Babsi, which I already know, but for the listeners, and then I also want to hear Jacopo's.
It's a long story. I try to make it short, but yeah, when I went to the valley the first time, it was in 2010 together with Hans-Jörg Auer. And at this time, like Hans-Jörg had way more experience than I had, but still, he was not super good in crack climbing at this time. So first of all, we just got on single pitch track climbs, and from the first moment on, I had the feeling I have no chance to climb a single meter of cracks. it was like we went, first route was generator crack. We tried generator for 3 hours. We couldn't even get to the half of it.
So just so people know, generator crack is probably like a 8-meter off width or something. It's very short, right? It's by the side of the road.
Of course, with up rocket.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah. It's very, very difficult off width, right? It's like if you come from Europe, you will never have climbed anything like it.
No, and we tried it like I always say, elevator style, like one hand on the right side of the crack and the other hand on the left, and try to squeeze on all sides, and it didn't work out. And this was the start. And then Hans-Jörg really wanted to get on a secret passage. It's like one of the hardest routes on El Cap, and I had the feeling, okay, I come with you to support you and belay, because for me it was like I couldn't imagine how hard that will be. So we went on the wall. We planned for 5 days. Hans-Jörg told me about the copperheads, that I can fall on those things, and it looked like a chewing gum with a metal cable on it. And I had the feeling, no, you can never fall on such a thing. But he did, and it helped. So I had the feeling, okay, he is the professional, he knows it. So this is the game of alpine climbing. And yeah, I learned a lot and got more confident, but still the second day on the wall, for me, it was also like super hard, like the whole wall experience, like, you know it, Hazel, how it is when you don't know each other so well. And then you have to go to the toilet on the on the big wall, and you don't want to do it next to your friend and all that stuff. So yeah, we had the feeling that's way too much. So we wrapped down on the second day. And then the plan was to climb something shorter. So we went to Washington Column, and we wanted to climb quantum mechanics. It's a route on the right-hand side of Astroman. And I remember when we started from the car, Hans-Jörg told me, yeah, you don't need a helmet and we don't bring the big cams because it's just too heavy. And I was like, okay, you're the boss, I follow. And then we started, and like we already invested like in this route. We went up like first day until the half of the route. We worked on some single pitches on the route, and then on the final a day when he wanted to send the route, we finally reached the end of the line. And then this guy, he had like a really good day. He could send every single pitch until this point. And yeah, there was like off it. It was like I think, second or third last pitch of the route. And I just remember that like he put 2 cams, and then he looked down and told me now he's going full gas. And I was like, please take care, Hans-Jörg. And then he ran out. It was like about the 12-meter run out. And then he really struggled to get into this off-it. And he had no clue how to climb that. So he fell off. He had a 25-meter fall. And he broke his wrist on that fall, and it was the biggest fall I have ever belayed. And I had no idea how to rappel him down, because he couldn't rappel by his own. And also the route was traversing all the time to the right. It was super steep, so we had to go straight down. So we left 1 cam per pitch, wrapping down. And then at 1 o'clock in the morning, we reached the ground, and we directly drove to the hospital in the valley. And I remember I didn't care about the stop signs. I just drove straight. And there was a police car behind us. And of course, blue lights on. And policeman stopped us, and all what Hans-Jörg did was he held his arm out of the window, and the police guy saw his broken arm, and then he was like, okay guys, follow me, I bring you to the hospital.
No way. Wow, that's a friendly police person.
And then yeah, we ended up in the hospital. That was the first trip to the valley.
Nice. I think it's important to hear these stories because on the outside, you guys just look like you showed up from Europe and just started sending everything. But I think it's important to
Not at
note that
all.
there's been some failures in there too. Jacopo, what was your first experience?
I don't have such a cool story to tell, but my first time to
You
the
just
valley.
showed up and sent, right?
No, kind of started the same way with the generator crack, and
Okay.
yeah, it's like this, as you said, this 8 meter long crack, which fits like 45 meters long.
Yeah.
Now, my first trip there was with Babsi in 2015.
Okay.
And yeah, I had a really hard time, I think, as most of the Europeans who do the first trip there. The plan was to jump on a big wall on El Cap, but we quickly realized it was too big of a goal at the beginning. So we spent a lot of time just cragging and just doing some classics. And
Nice.
you come with like these big expectations, and you think, okay, I can sport climb 514 or harder, and I can probably climb a 12p crack, but
No.
no. So we really like had to start from the basic again.
Yeah.
And then we slowly like felt a bit more like, let's say, secure, and we decided to jump on El Cap, and we didn't choose the easiest route probably, but the one who was more like Euro friendly. So we went up on El Nino, and the climbing was probably not as bad because it's more like slab climbing. There isn't a lot of crack climbing, but we had such a hard time with like logistic, and because we didn't know, we climb a lot of like longer routes in the Alps, but we mostly did those in one day or like 2 days, and there, we planned for, I think, 5 days, but we didn't know how much water to bring or how much food. So we ended up having to hold like way too much stuff. And I remember on the second day, we basically climbed maybe 3 or 4 easy pitches, and we hauled the rest of the day, and we were like so destroyed. And in the end, we stayed 8 days on the wall, and we ran out of food on the fifth day. So we had to like um, to split what we had, and but we still had maybe 20 liters of water after the 8th day, so we could take a shower almost. Um, I remember like on the last day, the last morning, we didn't have anything but 2 bars for breakfast, and I ate mine, and Babsi was like slowly eating hers, and I turned around and I hit the bar with my elbow, and I just saw like the bar like
Oh no.
I
falling down,
wanted
and I
to
was like,
kill
"Wow,
him.
she's gonna kill me."
That's classic.
Yeah.
So what I want to ask, okay, so segue to freerider. Was it in your guys' head then that you might want to try to flash freerider? Because I know that you guys did not climb any, because just so people know, it like free blast, other climbs start up free blast, or like if you wanted to do Salothe, you'd be doing all of freerider, or if you want to do the heart route, or like there's a whole bunch of routes that kind of overlap with some of the pitches on freerider. So at what point was it an idea in your mind? And yeah, like that first trip you did with Hansjörg Babsi, like what if you just got on freerider, or was there something in your mind from like way back?
No, with Hansjörg, I had the feeling I will never, ever free climb El Cap. For me, it was so far away. I had never, ever had the feeling that I could climb a single route on El Cap. And also after that experience, when I went to Yosemite multiple times with Jacopo, it was always that we didn't keep that route for a flash. It was more like we were so afraid of monster that we never wanted to climb on the left side and climbing this 60-meter long generator crack, more or less, because our goal always was like first day in the valley, every single trip we went to generator crack, and we really wanted
Nice.
that 8 meter of it, that there is a time when it feels easy, but it never ever happened to us. Like multiple years, we got to this generator crack and we always fell on it, on top rope, and we still, nobody of us sent it on lead.
This is the big goal then for you guys,
Yeah,
right?
but
Really, that's the pinnacle of Yosemite climbing. What's it even given? Like
yeah,
5'10" or
but
something?
this keeps you back. Like for me, and I think also for Jacopo, it was clear that we can never ever climb 60 meters of that style, and it's very similar to.
But did you not ask someone who'd done it? Like, I don't think I could climb generator, but I've climbed the monster.
Yeah, but you had already way more experience than we had. I talked to you,
No,
and
not
I
with
know that
upwards.
you were like really good in crack climbing. When I started crack climbing, you were already like on top of it.
But there's cracks and then there's offwidths, right? That like it's like a different thing, I think.
Yeah, but
I mean, I've done the monster several times now, and it still feels hard. But yeah, that's interesting that it wasn't like a surplus of confidence that had you say freerider. It was actually a lack of confidence.
yeah, but also, you climbed Golden Gate together with Hansjörg, and Hansjörg did every single pitch, but couldn't do the monster of it. And I heard the story about Hansjörg, and Hansjörg told me this crack, like it took everything out of him, and he could never ever try it a second time because he fell off at the last part of it, and then it was over. You have no motivation to go again when you are struggling and fighting for more than an hour in this offwidth, and this was enough for us to choose other routes.
That's so funny.
It definitely has a scary reputation, I think. You hear a lot of stories about it.
Yeah.
And when we were trying a magic mushroom, we were like hanging at the same height of the crack, and we saw some drama every day
Right.
on the monsters. So like, it definitely feels hard.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so at what point was it something in your mind that you wanted to save? And was it the same for both of you, or was it something that occurred separately?
I think it was KB, like Colin Bowick, who came up with that idea the first time. It was when we climbed the nose, and that was the point where we had no expectations, or it was not turning into a big goal, but it was in the back of our minds that we could try it sooner or later.
Was there a conversation where one of you voiced it first? Like, who put it, like, because there's one thing like thinking it in your head, but like who put it out into the world first?
KB always told us, come on, go back to the valley, and this time you try freerider. He was saying it all the time. Every time when we meet him, he was like, okay, now on to freerider, now on to freerider. We were like, no. And at the end, like also this year, it was not the main goal to climb the freerider. It was the main goal to try Magic Line, the single pitch track climb in the valley for both of us. So when the time when we both succeeded on that one, it was clear. Okay, now there is the chance, and it's quite complicated to try to flash freerider because you need the perfect time, because it's always crowded, and especially the last year it was always full of people. It was even more crowded compared to the nose because many people free climb nowadays on El Cap, and the first route they choose is always freerider. So it's really not easy to plan for such a. Don't make yourself too much pressure about that thing.
Yeah. But also, you guys wanted to presumably do it separately so that you could lead it, I assume.
No, that was never the plan. We had the feeling that we both want to climb it at the same time, like swinging leads. And yeah.
Is that what you did? Sorry, I thought you did it with someone else.
No,
Did it separately?
we were doing swinging leads, and we both leaded the boulder problem. And this was the plan, because we would not have had more time to go again. And also for the mindset, it's hard when both want to do that. Then it's always good to take that energy and go and try it.
Yeah.
It's easier than when one already tried and then you go back to the wall and go for it again.
So you didn't save it at all then? It wasn't something like, because I know, Babsi, you did El Corazon, right? And El Corazon normally starts
No,
up.
I definitely saved it. And I did do the mirror blast just because I wanted to save it. After the nose, we had it
Okay.
in the back of our minds. And then we really avoided to climb the free blast. Yeah, that's definitely the case.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. And so how much did it mean to you? Like maybe Jacopo, you could say like what, like, but just putting your mind back to before, like what did it mean to you in your mind compared to the other things that you'd both already done in Yosemite or wanted to do?
Oh, that's a good question. That was definitely like a nice goal to have, because especially because you have just one chance to achieve it. If you try just a hard route, if you fail one season, you can go back the next season or multiple seasons. And on such a goal, you have one try, so it's a bit of a different mental game. And everything has to be perfect. You have to find a good weather window. Golf have to feel like fit and in a good shape, and everything has to come together. So it was definitely like a big goal. Maybe probably mostly because El Cap means a lot, I think, for both of us. Like we keep on going there every year, and so to be able to climb it first try, once, will be something really special.
And when you were like thinking about it as an achievement, were you thinking like, okay, this is a really cool challenge. I think it will really push me in these ways. I think it will be an amazing experience. Or you also thinking of kind of like what I would call like the extrinsic motivators of like what that would mean after I've done it? What could I, not necessarily just like what could I tell people, what could I tell my sponsors, but just having that kind of, recognition and like to be part of Yosemite history, because no one's really done it before, right? Like Babsi, you're now going to be the first and only person to have flashed LCAP, and there's some kind of value to that, right? So like, not again, just putting your minds back to before, like how much of those like more external factors were going on in your motivations? Maybe Jacopo first and then Babsi.
I think not really, honestly. I think with 99% of our goals, or like at least mine goals, for me is important. The goal, it's important for like what it means for me, but not for other people. Of course, we're professional athletes, and what we do will also have an impact in our careers. But I think if I would just choose, the goals based on that, I would lose the motivation for climbing, and I probably would achieve most of the stuff. Because I think for me, I really have to have this like inner like motivation for what I do, and I couldn't have it if I wouldn't have to try it because of recognition or something like that.
Okay, yeah, I'll come back to that. But yeah, Babsi, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think for me it was similar. Like when you think about the whole picture at the beginning before you even try it would have made me crazy, I guess. So on most of the projects we have, at least I have really low expectations. Or I tell myself that it can be over everywhere. And first of all, the big goal was to flash the free blast. And when you're going there and you're standing in front of El Cap and it's your flash attempt, it's definitely, it's so much tension. And there was also somebody filming there, you know, and for me, I had the feeling I just don't want to fall off the first two pitches, because that would have been really embarrassing. And as further up you get, as more chilled it is, because then I think when you can flash the free blast, for myself, I could have been already proud of myself to have done this. And then you can add another plus. And at the end of the wall, when you're really close to the top, then there is another really big wave of tension, because then it's the stage where you really want it and where you don't want to give it away anymore, you know. And but when this feeling would be the whole time already when you start climbing, then I would never ever had flashed freerider, because it makes you crazy. And also, like, for example, when you prepare for such a thing, you can get information of every single pitch and every single move, because there is so much footage around and so much people have climbed freerider, so it's easy to get the information. It's impossible to on-site that route, because there are so many information about this route. But when you dive too much into that, then it makes you crazy. And I had the feeling we should focus on the monster and on the boulder and totally forget about anything else about that route, and just climb and focus on the single moves, on the moment, what you are doing right now, and don't make yourself crazy. And I think this is key. And also, I think when I would have known before the wave of media what happened after the ascent, I'm happy that I didn't knew that before, because that.
So you didn't think about that. Do you think some part of your brain knew that was going to happen? Because
Yeah, but it's so far away in the back of the brain that I don't have any access to that. It's more like, first of all, I had the feeling I can't do that. I can't be as lucky that this will happen. And then, as I told you, as further up you get, it more gets like real. And then you are standing on top, and when I was standing on top, I couldn't really get it. I couldn't believe what just happened, because I was so in the climbing mode, and I just wanted to climb and focus on the moment and don't think about anything else, that it took, I guess, more than 2 weeks after to realize.
that's cool. So the day before, what are you doing to manage some of that pressure? You already mentioned that you were kind of telling yourself, you like managing your expectations, going in with like not too much pressure on yourself, like focusing on just the first pitches. Are you doing anything else to manage the pressure?
Like when we were there, like first of all, the weather forecast looked really good, and then the filming crew came in, and it was 2 days before we did the try, and then the weather looked super bad. So the day before we got on the route, the weather forecast was so bad that it was like senseless to go and try it, because we already had the feeling we give away the chance of the flash, because it could have snowed the second day. And also when we were at that restaurant, I remember that all the climbers were staying there. Alex was coming in, and Tommy, and Eric Bissel was there, and the film crew, and it was such a weird situation, because everybody had the feeling, what are you doing? Like, the weather is getting super shitty, and we had the plan that we wanted to start like at 4 or 5 in the morning, climbing the free blast super fast in the early morning. And the next day's morning, it was so cold that we couldn't go at 4 or 5 in the morning. So we changed plan completely, and we were not sure if we really go until midnight the day before. And then we got on the wall. It was around 8 or 8:30 a.m. when we started climbing. So it was all really insecure if it really makes sense, if we should do that. And at the end, it was like, yeah, let's do it, and let's take it how it is, because at this year we would not had another chance, because it was already at the end of our trip, and we didn't want to move it for another year.
And why didn't you want to move it? Was that partly because of the film crew, or was it because you'd done all this mental prep and then to just put it to one side and have to go through all of that again would be hard?
Yeah, I had the feeling when you move it another year, it gets even bigger, and I didn't want to have this pressure. And for me, it felt like I really want to climb, and I want to climb right now. And yeah, and then when it snows or when the weather gets bad, then then we have to bail and we have to take it how it is. But also, at the end, we were so lucky, because on El Cap, when you have sunny weather the whole day, then it's can be super tricky to climb those slabs when it's super slippery and when the friction is not right. And we had like cold conditions. It was like it was super cold and windy, and we had barely any sun like all 3 days. And this made it also very nice at the end, and super, super lucky for us.
Cool. And Jacopo, what are you doing to manage pressure beforehand?
Just drinking coffee, I think.
God, that would make me so anxious. Coffee makes me anxious.
Maybe we were like so busy with planning and hesitating at the same time if we should try or not because of the bad weather. But this definitely like took some pressure away, I think.
Yeah.
The day before we were, as Babsi said, until midnight, we were really busy with like deciding even if we should try it or not. So yeah, the pressure started then slowly when we started climbing.
Okay.
But not so much before.
And like at this point in both of your climbing, I mean, you've done so much stuff, and a lot of it in high pressure situations. I mean, like Eternal Flame has to be super high pressure, right? You only got that one weather window, people filming, lots of money on the 2 expeditions, all these things add to the pressure. So at some point, how much do you both kind of just like trust yourself to be able to climb well whenever, when it matters most? And do you think that you kind of achieved that, both of you, on the climb? Maybe Jacopo first.
I didn't. I didn't achieve it, but for me, like I definitely can perform better when I'm just with my partner on the wall without like film crew and external factors that would like influence the whole experience. But yeah, otherwise I just try to focus on climbing and not on all the external factors. I think that's key, and like it's the way to trust myself. Then like try to focus on the process and on the actual climbing, and think less about the rest.
Yeah, about the outcome. Yeah. And so you said that you didn't achieve that. So you didn't feel like you did climb well, or you felt that you climbed well, but you just still didn't manage to do it? Because the two things are different, right?
I think I climbed like decently. I definitely didn't climb well on the boulder problem. I should have definitely invested a little bit more time in getting beta, and of course I watched like free solo and like tried to understand how it works, but I should have invested more time and energy into like researching. But except for that, yeah, I have the feeling that I'm happy with my climbing. Like I wasn't too stressed on the other pitches, but mentally probably I didn't do my best on that pitch. Like I realized that I wasn't in the best mental space probably.
You were a bit distracted.
Yeah, I mean, we had an amazing time on the wall. Of course, with Babsi and with the filming team. It was really like everything went smooth and we had a good time. So I didn't feel too much of extra pressure because of that. But it was a bit weird because they film us on the first day on the free blast, and then in the evening, they left, and we climbed up to the boulder problem the next morning. And then you pop up there, and you already know that that's basically when it all comes down to that pitch. And then at one moment, you have like 4 people or 3 people filming, and staring at you. So it definitely adds a bit of pressure. And it's funny because when I fell, I immediately like felt this sense of almost release. I felt more, like just like was okay. Now I can just focus on climbing and just enjoy climbing for the rest of the route without having any pressure. So when I fell, I didn't got mad at me. But then when I topped out, it was like, okay, it really sucks. Yeah.
And did you do the boulder problem quickly? Did you like get back on and do it, or did you have to figure it out?
I figured out the move when I fell. I didn't see like there is this spin scar on the last undercling where you basically use it to generate for kicking the foot. And I didn't see it, so I stood quite a long time on this sloper, and I couldn't understand how to kick my foot because I couldn't like pull. And then I fell there without basically even try to kick the foot, not really. And then I figure out how to do it, and then I climb it the next go. Yeah.
Who went first?
Yeah, that was the deal. Like I went first, and Babsi will go first on the monster.
Babsi, did it help you to see Jacopo make that mistake?
I think that it's definitely an advantage if you can see somebody climbing it firsthand. And also, Jacopo marked some footholds for me. I knew that after the kick, there's a really good hold. And but for me, when he fell, I had the feeling like he's the way stronger climber than I am. That my chances are really low because he's so strong in this style of climbing. It's like normal face climbing. It's a boulder problem. That for me it was really hard to feel some hope.
To be confident, I suppose.
To be confident. And also I tried to use the same footholds as he did, but it didn't work for me. So I had to climb back and rest on a little crimp and commit again with a higher foothold. And then I already, like when I got this loaf-shaped hold, I had to go fully dynamic, out of control to reach that one. I matched that one, and then I had the feeling that the corner is so far away.
And you're not very flexible, right? Because I remember feeling like that was, if you're short, you have to really flex your hips.
Yeah, I'm not flexible at all. But what helped, while I was kicking, my left hand slipped off the undercling. So I had my left hand in the air, and at the same time, I stood in the dihedral, and I had like a dead point where I didn't lose my balance, and then I could grab the big hold, and it was over. And that was for me like it was hard to believe. Like I never had this in climbing before, that I had the feeling I'm falling, but I was not falling. This was so unreal. I felt like out of my body. It really felt like being underwater. And when I grabbed this big hold after the kick, it was like getting my head out of the water and being in the moment again. It was like
it's like intense flow, right? Experience.
Yeah. For me, it was like I have nothing to lose and I have to give it all. And I needed a lot of luck as well.
Yeah. I think that's important. Obviously, like all of your skill and everything. But there's so much luck that goes into something like this, right? Like if the sun had come out just before and it had got super greasy, or there's just in big walling, there's so many, or like, you bought the wrong food and then your stomach was bad, or like some of these things, become excuses and they're not helpful to focus on. But there's just so much that goes into something like that versus like sending a single pitch climb.
And it also, like for me, it helped a lot that Jacopo supported me, because I could have totally understand that. You're upset at this moment when one of the team is falling, and for him it was over at this point, but he didn't give me the feeling that it's over. Like, he had like full support, and this helped a lot, that I had the feeling that everybody is with me and really believed in me, and this made it also easier to stay focused.
Was that hard to do, Jacopo, to support her in that moment when you kind of felt like you'd failed yourself?
No, it felt like natural, honestly, like what you always do on the wall, and I guess also in life. And as I said, like at the moment when I fell, I didn't almost felt this feeling of, of
Relief.
release. Exactly. So it was like kind of natural. Like I fell and check out the moves for me, and then I mark the footholds for Babsi and try different like solutions, so that maybe hoping that could help. And then we just climb to the top together. For me, like everything got harder, on the way down. Honestly, no,
Yeah.
I think we had a really good time on the wall, and as I said, I could just enjoy climbing, and with Babsi and with a cool team. So the experience on the wall was really good, honestly.
So what was hard after it? What was hard about the experience afterwards? Like, what was coming up for you?
But for me, it was first of all this weird feeling of topping out, El Cap again. Like I free climbed everything, but had the feeling that I didn't do anything. It was like, okay, I failed. And for me, it was the first time the first time in a long time that I had the feeling of failure, even if I succeeded in something. I didn't succeed in the original goal, but I still like free climber cap, which is cool.
Which is always a huge achievement in my mind.
Yeah. But in that moment, like I couldn't enjoy it. I was like, okay, I just failed, and then of course, like there is this, if something like that happens, I mean, everyone reacts differently. But for me, I just would like to take some distance from that atmosphere, and just focus on something else. But then you top out, and other climbers come to just congratulate, and then it's always, oh, amazing job, Babs, and then okay, sorry for you, and then was the team for the next like weeks, if not months. And then like the bad weather rolled in, so we went to the bar, and again the same. So it was like kind of hard. It would have been easier probably to just take some distance and do something else. But yeah, it was the environment which was a bit hard to deal with, probably, for me.
Yeah, so like coming back to like your initial motivations, it sounded like you were doing it for yourself, but then afterwards, like if you'd taken away everyone's judgment or like perceived judgment, would it still have felt like a failure in the same way?
Yeah, definitely. But probably the only difference is that if you do something, if you try to achieve a goal which is important just for yourself, and you fail, and you're just by yourself or like with your partner, it's easier to deal with it, I think. And if you fail and you have all this external, like, it's not pressure anymore, it's just like people who remembers you that you failed, that makes everything harder. And if I fail in some projects at home or something like that, then I know that to gain the motivation again, either I immediately want to push super hard on another climb, and I just jump into the next project, or I just take some distance and I go, flying or skiing or something like that. And in that moment, I felt a bit like captured. Basically, I couldn't, go on another climb. I couldn't take some distance. I was just stuck there, and then everything like got worse in my mind, and I was stuck in this circle of.
And was that harder because Babsi had succeeded? Do you think it would have been easier to have dealt with had you both failed?
Yeah, definitely, because you're not confronted then with the success and the failure. If both fail, then it's like that, and no one cares probably, and then always have to answer to interviews, give interviews,
annoying podcasts.
No, but it's just when it's fresh, now I don't care so much anymore, but when you're there, you're peace with yourself, and at the same time you have this external pressure. So for me, it wasn't like the best time of my life, I think. And at the same time, I felt like guilty because I wanted to be happy for Babsi and for achievement, but at the same time, I couldn't. I had like this weird fight inside myself. Like I was happy for her, but at the same time, I just wanted to go away and do some other stuff.
Yeah, a bit of conflict in there. You wrote this social media post, and I found it interesting because it felt conflicted as well, because you talked about having this amazing experience climbing with your partner and that you were really happy for Babsi, but you also said the walk of shame on the valley floor, and I thought that my first thought was, wow, he's being so hard on himself. Like, it's an amazing thing that he achieved also, and anyone looking at your climbing from the outside is just like, Jacopo sends everything. Like, that's kind of how people see your climbing. And I just thought it was interesting. And I just wondered, have you had to be a little bit more kind to yourself around it? Has that been part of the process?
I think I should have been more kind with myself at the beginning. I definitely was more kind, or have been more kind later on. But as I said, it was like this weird combination of situations that made the entire thing a bit harder to accept for me.
Yeah, I can see that. Even me and Angus went up El Nino in 2023, and for me it wasn't a big goal. I hadn't really I didn't put any expectation and pressure on myself, and I was totally fine with not having sent the whole thing. But then when we got to the top and everyone asked, what did you do at El Nino? Did you send? I think part of it's like how we talk about achievements in climbing, isn't it? It's so to do with the outcome. It's never to do with did you have fun? Or how was your experience? It was like, did you send? And then it would always have to be Angus saying, yeah, I sent. And then me being like, no, I didn't send, And so that was, I can relate to it, but that was an even, it was a smaller goal for me compared to how this was for you. So yeah, sorry, go on.
No, I was thinking maybe the difference for me, I had something similar on Premier, where Babsi climbed it and I couldn't climb the stem corner. And
I didn't know that.
And it was really, really different at the time, because of course when you top out, you're a little bit pissed with yourself. It's okay, I didn't send it, but it lasted really for a really short time. Also because you know that you can just go back to the route and climb it another time, or you can climb another route. But on freerider, it was really okay, I had this one chance for flashing El Cap, and I screwed up,
Yeah.
So maybe it was also this feeling, the fact of not having a second chance made everything a bit harder to accept.
Yeah. Babsi, so do you want to add anything to that? How was your experience afterwards? Was there part of you that wanted to celebrate, but you were kind of not, maybe you didn't celebrate as much as you would have done, maybe because Jacopo was going through this? Or how was that whole thing for you?
Yeah, it was mixed feelings. Of course, I was super happy that it went so well for me, but I was also sad for him. So when we got to the top, I didn't have full emotions about my sand. It was more I was holding it back, and I was also a little bit insecure how I should react, because I knew that it meant a lot for him. And it was also the days after, it was not easy, because when people are asking you and you are really excited about what you did, somehow you get into these conversations, you are motivated to talk about it and to tell your stories. But having him next to me, I always knew that it's not making him happy. He wants to avoid this situation. So it was kind of hard because like on other projects, most of the time it was always like that we both succeeded on the route, that we were standing on top together, both sent the route and it was a happy end. And on that one, I had the feeling it's not a happy end. It was more like, for me, like everybody was super psyched. And also that I sent it as a woman, many people were super psyched. And he got this shoulder clap, you know. And I always had the feeling we are working as a team. And I see this as a team ascent. And I think it's more important in life in general if you can support somebody, and being like he was on the wall is way more important than a single flash of a route. So I guess it's really hard.
Do you wish he would be more kind to himself?
Yeah, I think this is a thing. Definitely that he has like very high expectations on himself all the time. And for him, it's hard to accept or see it as a success if it's not 100% also on other routes. Often I see that when he's trying a project and it takes him a long time, sometimes his motivation goes a little bit down because he has high expectations, and I am often the other way around. Like I gain motivation as longer as I try a route. But I think this is a personal thing that he's so motivated and he's so strong. And I think it's also hard, when you compare us, then when we go climbing, when we go sport climbing, or when we climb together in the gym, I can't do the single moves of his boulders or sport climbs. And then things like this happens on big walls. And this is for sure like it's very hard. And I also think that I don't know, like maybe for me it would have been a little bit easier because I'm confronted with that way more often, because as a woman, most of the time or very often men are stronger, and how that feels because it's such a normal thing. And the other way around, maybe it's a little bit harder when you know that you're so much stronger, and then it's the other way around. It's probably also a bit harder to get used to these situations. I don't know.
Yeah, it's the same with me and Angus. Like day to day, Angus will always outperform me. But there's some moments where I might send a route before him or find something easier than him. And he always uses these examples and talks about these examples all the time. And I'm like, but every day that we climb, you generally climb better than me. So yeah, it probably is harder the other way around in terms of the expectations you have. I really like what you said though, Babsi, about, that it's more important to you that he would be the kind of person who supports you rather than the person who, sends, but maybe it is not does not have as good character, So there's the different things in your life, there's like achievements. Like, I just want to know, like, to what extent do you both feel like your happiness is somewhat dependent on your achievements? So, like in this instance, right? Like Babsi, you achieved something, you sent something, you have been a bit happier afterwards than Jacopo, right? So it's just to some extent, your happiness is kind of tied up with the goals that you set for yourself and whether you achieve them or not. And I just wondered if that's something that you kind of think about and like manage, basically, especially when it comes to prepping for these climbs. Because if you're kind of going into something and you're going, I'm going to be so much happier once I've sent it, or I'm going to be so much happier if I succeed at this thing versus fail, then that adds pressure as well. I don't know, Jacopo, what you think about that? Or Babsi can go first too if you want. I don't know.
I think that I never had the feeling that how will it be afterwards. I don't think much about that. It's more like, for example, when you go on El Cap, the best part of it is being right in there and still having the chance to achieve it. Like, if I really like those moments where you're not sure if it goes or not, but you still can fight for it, and there is a chance that you can succeed. This is the best moment in climbing. And in climbing, it just makes me happy when I feel well in my body and I have like a good feeling strong. But it doesn't need to be like, I never think about the feeling what I have afterwards, because then it's over, you know. And then it's over after we succeeded on a route, and then something new is coming. It's like all the time there will be something new. There will be another project, and it repeats again and again. And when you don't enjoy the process, then this thing will never make you happy. So you really need to be motivated and burn for that mission.
Yeah. But it's interesting because if you don't have the outcome also makes it all sort of make sense, right? Do you know what I mean? Like, if it's just the process and you're not trying to send every pitch, if there's no goal at all, then that would also feel weird, right?
Yeah, that's true. But it's like, I see it like going on a mission. Like, a mission should be hard. It should be a challenge for us. It should be on the limit. Otherwise, it's not a mission, because then I know it will go. And then it's not as interesting compared to a project where we don't know if it goes or not. And of course, the outcome is somehow important, because then you have succeeded. But it's maybe freerider is a really bad example, because there you have no second chance. But on all the other routes, it definitely happened in the past that we didn't succeed, but you can still go back and the rock will stay there forever. So you always have a second chance or a third chance. And when it doesn't work out, then you will find maybe more motivation to go back and try again. And then it will get even more important, because you invested more energy and more time, and it gets more important. And at the end, I think it's all about memories. You know, when you are suffering, when you have a hard time, when you work really hard for something in life, it doesn't matter what it is, in climbing or in your job or in something else, then it's always really cool to have the memories about cool experiences. And this is what climbing is all about, because it doesn't really make so much sense at the end. Why would you climb multiple times El Cap? It's just because of having great memories and having a good time and enjoy the process, and not only what people are thinking about you when you succeed or if you
So hearing
succeeding.
all of that, you know, if it's about the process, if it's about the challenge, if it's about making memories, like, is there a world, Jacopo, where you could reframe your experience on freerider as a success, or does it still feel like a failure?
Still feels like a failure, honestly. That's probably because that's the big difference. You know, when you want to flash something, you have one chance, and if you have like another project which is just about climbing something or achieve something, and you have like multiple tries, as Babsi said, the process itself it's even better if you fail, because you have like a bigger motivation to go back, or like you know, you can go back to something and you see like a progress, or you learn something from the previous experience. So I normally enjoy a lot more through like the process itself than the achievement. Also because most of the time, if you try something for a long time, if you have like a long-term project, I had it. The best example for me was Tribe in Cadarese. It was this tribe climb that I tried for a long time. Um, you know, I enjoyed so much the progress, and I was so happy when I climbed it. But after like just a couple of days, I wasn't happy anymore after I climbed it, because I had the feeling that I was missing the process already.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that achievement is always linked with like happiness. It is, but it shouldn't be like, you shouldn't um, try something just to achieve it to be happy.
Yeah.
You really have to like be happy in the process, during the process. And freerider for me was just like I don't know, it's like a different experience, something that I had never experienced before, and it was really hard to cope with it.
So what do you think is your biggest learning thing? Because this is how you might make it feel more like a success if you felt like you learned something. Do you have a sense of like what you might take away from it that might improve your climbing or your life moving forward?
Yeah, I think like different things. Like on the climbing side, probably that when I want to try something like that, that should maybe be better prepared. I should just take every chance I have to reach the goal. And in that case would be ask for more infos, like don't underestimate anything, because in my mind I was like really worried for like the wider cracks, but I thought, okay, I'm face climbing is kind of my strength, and it shouldn't be too bad if I know like a little bit how the ninja kick works, then I'll be able to do it. And when I arrived there and I realized that it wasn't the case, I felt like really stupid, and I blame myself a bit. But on the other side, what I learned from it is that I'm really like happy with how I reacted afterwards, like during the climb. So as soon as I fell, instead of get mad at myself or like get depressed, I was just like in a good state, and we really enjoyed the rest of the route together. And then I have a lot to learn from from the days after, like maybe not to be as hard with myself, and just try to be nicer with myself.
Nice. Cool. And Babsi, what do you feel like you've learned this? Because this is the thing, right? It's maybe when you succeed, you don't learn as much.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I think it worked really well that don't put too much pressure on you beforehand, and and just focus on the moment and the move what you're doing right now. And also, like, I don't know, it's like it's so much connected to luck. And I was really lucky on the climb, and Jacopo was really unlucky. It was just
but you should also be proud of
it's
yourself too, right? Like, can you celebrate that, be proud of yourself? And because it sounds like you climbed really well, even with the pressure.
no, I think no, I'm definitely proud of myself, and I'm proud that my mind works really well in really stressful situations. And I could, I didn't see the filming crew, and I didn't add any more pressure on myself. And I could really focus on climbing, and I got not distracted by anything. And this was crazy because I think it depends on the moment, and it depends on the situation. Sometimes it works and sometimes not. And on this climb, it worked every single day that I was fully focused on what I was doing, and I still was enjoying the climbing.
And did you even enjoy the monster?
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't enjoy the monster so much. It was painful, and it was definitely a fight. But I was proud of us as a team that we did the monster both pretty fast, so it didn't take us very long, and that was cool. And also, like the days before the boulder problem, we worked together as a team so well. We were so fast, and it was perfect. Like I couldn't have wished for a better partner. Like, and also, as you say, it would have been maybe better to climb every single pitch on lead and go on different days, but it would not have been the same experience. And I will always think back about this experience, and for me, it's one of the most intense climbing experience I had in my life.
Cool. Great. Well, maybe we'll end it there. Thanks a lot, guys.
Danke.
Thank you.
Dankeschön.
Thank you.